for webinar Wednesday. As you might know, Friday is Library Love Month, and we wanted to show our love with a few of the many librarians who work here at TLC, including Dylan White, our software instructor, senior support technician Erin Kinney, and cataloging product owner Rhiannon Williams. But before we start the fun, I'll mention a few housekeeping things. First, we are recording, so if you want to, we want to share this with your colleagues or watch it again, will be available. This webinar will be available tomorrow on our website. But since you're joining us live, you have the opportunity to ask questions. So please feel free to use the Q&A at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions throughout the presentation. Dylan, Erin, Rhiannon, thank you so much for joining us today. So this is, as I said, this is Library Lovers Month, and I'm really excited that I get to talk to y'all. As a former librarian, I absolutely adore talking to other librarians, and we all work here at TLC. So I want to start asking some questions, and we'll start with Dylan. So I want you to just say who you are and why do you love libraries?
So yes, I am Dylan White. I am one of the software instructors. So if you ever join us for Training Team Tuesday, or if I've ever popped in and done some virtual training for you all, hello, and it's nice to see everyone. I have always loved libraries. I have always gone to the library, but I think Judy Blume is kind of my idol, and she is just the most epic patron of libraries and supporter of libraries, and that is just where my love of reading started. Just those, books geared towards your middle-aged readers, and then I grew up with the middle, the young adult books, and finally into her adult books, and it's just forever fostered this like deep love of books and getting books, and then I started working in a library in high school because I simply was not brave enough to be yelled at in a retail world. And it seemed like the library was the perfect place for someone like me. And all the little ladies at the library used to joke that I would become a librarian. And I said, who does that? Who becomes a librarian? That's a ridiculous job. And then here we are. The most amazing dream job in the world, being a librarian.
That's awesome and totally agree. Dream job. So what did you do as a librarian? What kind of librarian were you? Where did you work?
So I did a little bit of everything. So like I said, obviously I started as a page and I paged like all through high school and while I was working in college. And then I actually got my undergrad in library science. I found one of the few schools that offered an undergrad in library science because I just kind of knew that was it. That was all for me. So I completed that and I wound up in a school as an instructional assistant in a library. And during that time, I finished my MLIS and I finished the credentials for teaching. And then I was fortunate enough to long-term sub in a library and transition that into a contract. And so I was a school librarian in Frederick County, Maryland, until 2023. So kind of everything associated with school libraries. And I had the most amazing good fortune of opening a new school too. So I was able to pick the entire opening day collection and design the entire library. So just the coolest thing in the world, being a school librarian.
That's a lot of
Mm.
work for an opening day collection. I can't even
It
imagine.
was. And it happened to fall over COVID, which was both a
Oh,
great thing and then also, initially we had all these big group meetings. So like I was working with a bunch of other librarians putting these together and then COVID happened, so that stopped. So I put the collection together myself, but I got to organize the library without the students in it, which turned out to actually be a little bit convenient because no one was taking books off the shelf as I was putting them away.
that's so what's the this is a silly question, but what's the funniest thing you found in a book or a silly story that you have about being in the library?
I've heard all of them. My mom put my book in the dish or the washing machine. I have found so many funny family photos from strangers in books, but I think my craziest library story is when I was working at the public library. We came in one morning and our entire audiobook, adult fiction, and half of our nonfiction stacks had fallen over. So that was probably the craziest thing that I've ever experienced. It took a while because we had to, get all the books picked up and the stacks had to all be reassembled and repaired and all the books had so that's probably my craziest library story.
Does
But
anyone
I
know
worked,
why that
no, there
happened?
were no earthquakes. There was no, like, nothing triggered the sensors.
Wild.
Yeah, so I've got my fair share of crazy public library stories and school stories, but that is one that, so like I said, that would have been when I was in high school. So what, 25 years later, I still like remember clear as day turning the lights on in the library one Saturday morning and just,
Can you talk a little bit about your move from school library, well, publics to schools, to then coming to TLC to become a vendor librarian?
Yeah, so the school that I worked at, we were a TLC school. So my entire public school time actually was with TLC. And then we had a military move to California, and it was just like the most amazing kismet, or I don't know what cosmic thing was going on that TLC happened to have a opening for a remote position doing software instruction after I had moved and having been so familiar with TLC and working with it, it was just meant to be. So I was able to join TLC on this side. So I was a user for over a decade, and now I get to be on this side. And it's really fun. I obviously knew how everything worked where I worked. I knew how we process books. I knew how I use the system. So it's been a real joy to learn how other people use the system, to be able to share some of kind of my own experience and my thoughts and how things can work well. And then just also hear about everything going on at other libraries. School librarians tend to be islands. We're the only one in the school. So it can get a little lonely sometimes. So to be able to connect with other librarians and kind of hear how they were doing things and hear the silly stories happening, it's just really fun. And then, of course, getting to hear about other libraries, like what's going on in the public library world, what's going on in the academic library world. It's all kind of, it's fun. So it was the most amazing timing that I got to jump into a company that was so welcoming and so familiar, exactly when I needed it.
And we are so glad that happened. So I'm going to ask one last question. What is your favorite tip, trick, or feature that you love about Library Solution for schools?
Okay, so I was sitting on this because I had my immediate gut reaction answer, which was list in actions, because I think that is not utilized and not loved nearly enough. It is just like the most amazing tool for like getting this really, really fine data in your system. But as I was thinking about it, and I've done a couple webinars on it and I've talked about it, I don't think stats only collections get enough credit either. So I think if you are not utilizing the stats only feature in LS2 staff, I think that is something to consider. It is a really, really super duper way to collect data. I know when I was working at the public library at nights, I would just be like tallying something on a sticky note and trying to remember to like throw it into the Excel spreadsheet or the Google form before I left. And stats only is such a great option for that because you can put in as many different collections as you want. You can have your adult questions, your young adult questions. A school library is another great opportunity for using that. How many kids come in during a lunch block to visit the library? How many iPads are you fixing? How many Chromebook chargers are you giving out? It's just such a super way to collect data and then to be able to run reports across time periods and see trends or advocate for yourself. I'm doing all of this technology repair. I need help. So I think as much as I love list and actions, I think stats only collections need a little more love too.
That's a really good one. I wasn't thinking about that one. And I was definitely the kid that was at the library during lunch every day. Thank you so much, Dylan.
Yeah.
That was so fun. I'm gonna move on to Aaron. Aaron, we're gonna start off the same question. Who are you and why do you love libraries?
I love libraries. Since I got my first library card when I was 6 years old at the San Carlos branch of the San Diego Public Library. When I was an undergraduate, I spent all my free time between classes and work at the library. or various libraries at UCSD. When I was unemployed, I went to the library to research career changes, which is kind of how I ended up with libraries. Now I love to be able to check out, like that unique cake pan or the new gadgets in the library things that my local library has, and audiobooks and things. I joined TLC as a senior support technician in January last year, 2025, so I've been here a year now. I'm currently living in Southwest Indiana. And I've worked as a museum technician, the cataloger, Mesa Verde National Park, volunteered at the library there, keeping it open nights for and evenings for the interpretive rangers to use. So my love of libraries has been throughout. So
So much fun to have all those different career paths that led you to TLC, and we are very glad to have you. So, as a librarian working in libraries, what were your favorite things to do? What did you do when you were there? You said
uh,
cataloging was
I've
one.
been a cataloger as a museum technician for the National Park Service and for public and academic libraries. Been a reference librarian at the Wyoming State Library, where I was also a digital initiatives librarian and a systems librarian at the Baldwin County Library Cooperative, who is also a customer. Well, the cooperative's gone, but Baldwin County Library is still there. Um, let's see. At the Wyoming State Library, I managed the statewide digitization projects, including the Wyoming newspaper project, where we digitized over 800,000 newspaper pages from microfilm with partnering with the Wyoming State Archives. And I was a reference librarian at F.E. Warren Air Force Base Library, where we went through Y2K on a nuclear missile base. It's always interesting. Um, Cataloger for the Florida Photographic Project. So that was late 90s when things were just starting to get digitized. That's when I was in grad school at Florida State University. So which is where I got my MLS from, and I've got a CompTIA A plus certificate, so I know a little bit on the hardware side of things, so I can help out or support on both sides.
That's awesome. Also, I just love National Park Services. I'm just jealous, a little jealous that you got to work there. What's the funniest thing that you found in a book or that happened to you at a library?
I was the resident reptile wrangler. Whenever a gecko or a lizard would get into the library, I would kind of shoo them out when I was in Alabama. I have lots of snake stories, but I will not share those because depending on the audience, they may not like it. We all have those reference questions where either you didn't quite understand what they were asking or they didn't quite understand what they were asking. We had a woman call in when I was at the Wyoming State Library who wanted to know about her uncle in Sweetwater County and geranium plant patents, which like, okay. State Library is a U.S. Patent and Trademark Office resource center, so we had plant patents. Say that 3 times fast. Plant patents on file there, so a call wasn't that unusual. However, Wyoming's not known for growing pretty much anything except sage and that's about it. So we asked some follow-up questions. Turned out she wanted to know about land patents, and if there was uranium on the land. So in Sweetwater County, there is uranium in Sweetwater County and a lot of sage. That's about it. So we referred her to the Bureau of Land Management General Land Office database, which is an amazing resource on land patents, and told her how mineral rights worked in the West. So, which means if you own the surface, you may not own the mineral rights. So yeah, so geranium plants turned into uranium land patents. So
At least they rhyme.
right, exactly. We kind of understand what we misunderstood.
That's wild.
Exactly.
Um, excuse me. Can you talk a little bit more about your move from being a librarian to being here at TLC?
Sure. I was a library solution customer at Baldwin County Library Cooperative, so I was familiar with the software, though we were on 4X at the time when I moved to Indiana in December 2019. So being hired with a 5-year gap meant I had to learn about the new releases and all the new features, which I'm super excited about. So I had a good foundational understanding of how things worked. I enjoy helping people, which is what support is good at doing. We like being able to help people, learn the software, understand it, be able to make the tweaks to make it to work for them. And I'll be working in the TLC booth at the Texas Library Association the end of next month, so that'll be a new experience for me. So it'll be fun being on the vendor side of things and not the librarian side of things at TLA. So
That's a very, it's a weird transition. I've done it from where I was the librarians who coming to the vendor side, and I'm like, am I supposed to leave now? Do I
right.
stay? What do
So
I
yeah,
do?
I'm hoping I do okay. Yeah,
You'll be
it'll be fun.
great.
It'll be
You'll
fun.
be great. Texas Library Association is a lot of fun.
Looking
And
forward
so
to it.
last question. This will be your favorite tip or trick about library.solution that you love.
Okay. The overdue notice wizard in Library Solution 5.8 and higher, you can create a myriad of customizable overdue notices and final overdue notices. I have not seen any library use this feature yet. You can customize by borrower type, by holding code, by notice delivery type. So for example, if you want your overdue notices for hotspots sent out daily, you can do that. So if your other ones are being sent every week, every 2 weeks, but you want your hotspot one sent out daily, you could do it. If you want, if for maybe for a school, if you want a specific notice sent to a specific patron type, maybe just students or guardians or teachers or whatever, you can do that. You can change the wording. So use it. Overdue notice wizard and preferences.
That's cool.
It's very cool. I really want to see somebody use it.
I also like in notices that there's an extended amount of space that you can use, and we've had some
Mhm.
of our libraries use the notifications to have English and then say Spanish as a second language as
Mhm.
in the same notification so that folks can bring it home and have everybody can be able to read it. I love our notices are so great. They're so
Mhm.
comprehensive.
Yes. So I'm pretty excited. I like that.
Thank
I like
you.
that one a lot.
I'm gonna go to Rhiannon. Rhiannon, who are you and why do you love libraries?
Yeah, so my name's Rhiannon Williams, and as Ash said earlier, I'm the cataloging product owner here at TLC, and I have loved libraries ever since I was a little kid going to the library to check out like the next graphic novel in a series that I was obsessed with, or especially like the series of unfortunate events was like my absolute favorite series as a kid, and also like the Spiderwick Chronicles. So I have so many fond memories of reading these like very fun, cozy books in the library, like tucked into a corner, reading it there at the library the moment I get my hands on it, while I wait for all of my sisters to pick out their books and my mom to pick out the book she wants. And I'm like, no, wait, no, wait, just a few more pages before I finish this chapter. So, um, so I've loved libraries ever since I was really young, and as I've gotten older and gone through undergraduate and graduate school and learned about all of the amazing resources and the services that libraries offer, it just seemed like the a really natural fit for what I wanted to do in my career of being able to help a lot of people and be able to provide information and services to people in my community. So I love libraries for what they do for connecting the community with the resources and information that they need.
That's really great. That's a library kid story. I was a library kid too. My dad used to take us to the library so that he could rent movies and I was always in the kids section going, and I'm gonna take this home, and then I hit the limit. Those I love those stories. Oh, so as a librarian, what did you do and what kind of libraries did you work in?
Yeah, so my career with libraries started while I was in undergraduate. I worked as a library page at the Blount County Public Library in Blount County, Tennessee, um, where I went to undergrad there at Maryville College, and it was a really great experience being able to take the information that I was learning in a lot of my English literature classes and bring them, and especially with a focus on um, children's literature and things like that, and bring that into my reference interviews I was having with patrons as I was working with them and working the desk there. So it made me really fall in love with children's librarianship. And then I also got the opportunity to then work with the technical services staff at that library to start working on a cataloging project of cataloging a whole bunch of CDs that were donated by a very kind patron. So we got this giant collection of CDs, and I had no cataloging experience. I had never done any of that stuff. So I kind of just like dove headfirst into that project and working on it and found out that I really loved cataloging in general and being able to take this physical item and describe it so that it's searchable and discoverable and be able to put all the right information in there and enough information for people to be able to find it and be able to use it as they need to. So I took that and ended up getting my MSIS from University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Um, and I have then transitioned into a cataloging position at the Washington County Public Libraries, and then also into a children's programmer position there. And I got to go through the whole um, transition from one ILS to TLC. And so that's when I did that whole transition and we transitioned to Library Solution. And that's how I got familiar with Library Solution. And I realized how much it made my life easier as a cataloger. Um, and I really, really enjoyed that. And so that's how I kind of got familiar with Library Solution and TLC in general.
I don't believe that you never did cataloging from like the time you were a library page. You're too good at it. Um, so what was the funniest thing you've ever found in a book or the silliest thing that happened to you as a librarian?
So my sort of silliest thing was definitely sort of in line with Aaron's as far as the random animal encounters at the library. They just always seem to happen. The library I was a page at um, was it was just like a really great location. It was right off of a green belt with a river with a pond like right behind it, and there was all of this like nice, beautiful wildlife green space back there. But that did mean we occasionally did have like the odd duck decide to come and nest right in the garden right next to the door by the children's, and the mama duck did not like you walking by her nest. So it was just a lot of that of being like, please don't bother the duck, or when the occasional family of kittens would be found like in the bushes out front, and it was just like, oh, we now have like 6 kittens that we need to do something with. So there was a lot of wrangling the odd animal here and there, and showing kittens off to all of the other staff members in the library and being like, do you want to take a kitten home? So that was always so fun. And I always had so much. I can't remember any specific thing, but there's, kids just say the funniest things. And so there's so many random anecdotes of the things that a kid may say in the library. So it's always, you never have a dull moment working in children's. So it was always so fun.
I love the kids say crazy things. I write down when my kid says something silly. I keep a notebook of it and then I read it back later and I'm like, he really said that. He actually. And then with the kiddos, it's like, oh, they really said that. Kids are smart and hilarious. I loved working with them. Can you talk a little bit about how you transitioned from being a librarian and working with kids and technical services to coming to work for TLC?
Yeah. So, uh, yeah, like I mentioned, I've worked in both in children's and in programming and focus on that, and then also into cataloging. And both of them are very close and near and dear to my heart. And when I was having I had a larger life change, I had my son, and realized that a remote position was going to fit a lot better into where my family was at the moment. I started looking at positions and going through the migration from one ILS to TLC made me realize that it was a very smooth process. We were part of a very large consortium of a lot of small rural libraries here, and and they're all still customers to this day. And going through that process and of the coordination, and it could have been a really painful process. And I've heard stories from other librarians that it has been a very painful process in the past, but it was an incredibly smooth and easy transition. And seeing how uh, how much the software made an impact on my daily life as a librarian working in children's and working at the front desk and also at working in cataloging made me realize just how impactful that could be, and it made me want to search out some positions like that. And this position opened up at just the right time, and it's been a really great transition to work on the vendor side because there is this opportunity for me to help even more people, just sort of by proxy of helping those catalogers and librarians and those school staff members who are kind of doing all of it and would love a little bit of guidance on what should I do and what's the best workflow for me, what's going to be the most efficient for me to accomplish my task of getting these records available and discoverable for my students. So that's one of my absolute favorite parts of working at TLC is being able to help all kinds of librarians and library staff members and meet them where they are and help them do their job better as best as our software can do. So that's just my favorite part about working at TLC.
And you run so many great webinars as well on cataloging, and it's such a great opportunity for someone like me who's never done cataloging in my library career. And no, it was like overwhelming for me. It's just so great to learn a lot more about what Library.Solution can do as a product and how easy it is to catalog with it. Again, for someone like me who's like, huh, can I just I don't know what to do. Let me go work with the kids again. And we're really super happy when everyone comes to TLC to work, but especially with our librarians, because you bring an extra amount of love and passion to libraries because you've worked with them, you've worked with patrons, and that always translates into how you help people on the other side. And I love that. I'm going to throw you all a curveball question that I didn't ask you to answer, but who did you have a librarian in your life that really pushed you over to like, yes, that person is the reason why I became a librarian, like at the end of the day? Mine was my high school librarian, who's also a customer here at TLC now. And I went to her library every day during lunch because I didn't like the lunchroom. It was too loud. And because of her and how kind she was, I was like, I want to do that. And so that's my little story. But if you have one, just unmute.
Mine was the librarian at Mesa Verde National Park. So that's where I applied for library school. So she's like, let's do a collection development plan for Hovenweep National Monument. And let's so yeah, she definitely pushed me in this direction to become a librarian. So thankful for Mona Hutchinson.
Mine wasn't a librarian. Obviously, I told you, enamored by Judy Blume, but my ninth grade English teacher was the kind of person that no book was the wrong book. So, like, we had expectations of completing book reports and doing all these things, but like, you picked what spoke to you and you picked what mattered to you. And so, just this really open dialogue about how books are different for everybody and what, where you need to be and what books resonate with you and how to find yourself and characters and just that beautiful cultivation of like read for you. That was just such a special, meaningful thing that has, kind of sat with me. That there is always a book for every time and there's always a book for every person. And being able to share that, I think, kind of rooted this love of what books can be, I think.
I love that.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing that.
I love that too. Yeah. And I had a mentor at the library I was doing my page work, Ari Baker. They were a huge inspiration for me of showing what um, like inclusive librarianship could look like, and having a making a space be that true like third place, and make it accessible and inviting for all people in the community. That was something that was so inspiring to me. That the work that they did there at Blount County Public Library was just such an inspiration for me, and working in children's underneath them as my manager, and then also as they moved into different departments, and bringing that like inclusive and welcoming environment around and bringing it all throughout the library was just so great. And so I'm very thankful to them for showing me how welcoming and inclusive a library can be. And that's just one of the things that is just so incredible about libraries, is that there's something there for everyone. There is a book for you there, and there's information for you, and library staff are always excited and happy to see you there. So that's something that I love so much about libraries.
Thank you all. That's so great. So we did have one question come in from an attendee. This is for Rhiannon. Rhiannon, did one of the kittens get to be a library cat?
Oh, so unfortunately, none of those kittens became a library cat. We did actually have, I guess, sort of by proxy, we did have a patron who was very interested in taking in some of those kittens, and I believe that they ended up fostering some of them.
Oh,
But we didn't end up having any of them remain as a library cat. Unfortunately, we did have a library hamster who was a absolute favorite there for a little while. So, but there we always wanted to get updates. And that's one of the other fun things about being a librarian, especially if you're frontline staff working with them. You get to learn so much about your patrons. So I always loved seeing everyone's photos of their dogs or their cats or their bird, and being like, oh, what are they doing? Oh my gosh, you got another bird. Like, tell me all about it. So that's just such a fun part of librarianship.
thank you. I love it. Library hamster is adorable. We had a classroom guinea pig. That was a like a big hamster, but no. So I want to thank you all so much for joining us for Webinar Wednesday today. And before we close up, I just want to also mention that we do webinars almost every Wednesday, once a month. And if you're interested in getting more information, I'm just going to launch a poll and you can answer that. And I'm sorry for my voice. But I want to thank everyone so much for being here today with us, and to our panelists, and thank you for being here at TLC. And I hope that you all have a fantastic day.